Hi, welcome to Shop Talk. Today on Shop Talk, we have Alan Dorfman, owner and founder of Super Impulse Toys. Alan, welcome.
Thank you very much, Jim. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Now, I always like to start with this question. It's like, with people in the toy industry, where did you go to college and what did you go to college for?
Good question, and it's a complex answer because my college keeps changing names. I went to college at the Philadelphia College of Textiles and Sciences, which then became Philadelphia University, which is currently Jefferson University. That's in Philadelphia. And I went in as a design major, but graduated with a degree in marketing.
And so how did you get involved in the toy business?
Needed a job. Found one.
That's how a lot of people get involved.
Yeah, I went to work for a company that was really in a novelty business in a sales capacity. And they kind of trended towards some toy items. And I went to my first toy fair and knew it was a career that was for me.
What was your first toy fair? What year?
Ooh, 1985, maybe 84.
Yeah, mine was 1984. Back down to the toy building where you had to fight to get into an elevator.
Back when you had to wait in line to get into the elevator and tromp up the steps. And my first toy fair, I walked in and they had all the publications laid out in the lobby and they were free. So I just loaded up on them, thinking maybe they'd be gone by the time I came back, and put them all in my briefcase. You know what it's like carrying a briefcase full of magazines up and down those steps?
Yeah, they were big.
It was a workout. It was a learning lesson.
So eventually, after the early years, you started Basic Fun, a company that still exists today. What led you to that, and also lead you to, you are known as the king of mini toys. It's like you developed a category that nobody else developed that still today under Super Impulse thrives.
Correct. We think small.
Yeah. That's great.
I got into the business kind of as a distributor of novelty toys. We were just buying stuff from wherever we can source it and reselling it. It's a small company. It started in my parents' basement, and had employees coming in, knocking on my front door, and after a couple of years, no, not even a couple of years, after a year, we outgrew that and moved to an office. Eventually, I took one of the product lines from that company. It was a line of party favors that was doing particularly well, and joined Laramie, who became known for Super Soaker.
Yep.
At that time, Laramie was more of a rack toy company, so it was a good mix as I had a party favor line. Was there for about a year and decided to go out on my own, and that's when I started Basic Fun.
Yeah, I want to talk about the minis because, what is the appeal of the minis? Is it young kids? Is it older kids? Do you have a wide demographic? But whatever it is, you built a market that still exists today.
And it wasn't by design. It was we hit on something that works and ran with it. The first product was a miniature Super Soaker. Because of my relationship with Laramie, I was able to convince them to give me a license when the Super Soaker water gun was the hottest thing in the world. And it was a big, oversized water gun, and so it just made sense to try to come up with something that was different from anything they were doing, but still captured the same essence of the product. Took me about a year to convince them, and they eventually did give me a license. Put a keychain on it, and it took off. And then I realized, well, if I don't come up with something new, we're going to be a one and done, a one-hit wonder. And we started chasing the industry. The second one was Etch-A-Sketch, and we're very fortunate to have great partners with the people at Ohio Art. And 2 became 6, and 6 became 12, and then we got into entertainment properties, and next thing we knew, we were the keychain guys. Later on, after Basic Fun was sold, they phased out that business. And in all honesty, the keychain category had become saturated and it was on the decline, so maybe it had seen its day. And they phased out that part of the business, and I went on doing my thing. And after a little while, I realized, well, this is low-hanging fruit. Let's just make them miniatures again. We don't need keychains. So World's Smallest was born.
What have you made in minis that has been really successful that people thought, what are you, crazy? This can't be done. It's like, I'm sure there are a lot of them. You did, you talked about Etch-A-Sketch, but you've made so many. I'm sure you've had team members go, we can't make this a mini.
That's a very good question. And going back to Etch-A-Sketch, the way we got the deal was they told us it couldn't be done. Couldn't be made any smaller than a travel size. And I said, well, look, give me a shot. I'll give you an advance. If it doesn't work out, keep the advance. And if it works out, we'll just go forward with the license. And we were able to build it. The games, I think we do very well with games based on Hasbro's properties and Mattel's properties, and converting particularly a board game that works to a small functional size. That kind of takes, you have to think, and excuse the pun, you have to think out of the box. How do you convert something that's pocket size and portable that has a lot of little pieces? Those, I think, are our biggest challenge. And it's worked very successfully. It's got a big wow.
Now, with the changing of retail, and when I'm saying the changing of retail, a lot of people are buying online. And I look at the minis and I look at a lot of items that are what I call your super impulse. They're impulse items. How do you get that impulse buy online that you used to get in store as more people are shopping online?
On the plus side, we have brand equity. We have a high brand recognition. So people see a Monopoly or an Uno, they instantly know what it is, and the appeal of a small size intrigues people, so they want to try it. That's the plus side. The downside to online, particularly impulse price points, is that sometimes the freight can cost close to the actual cost of the product. So in an environment where people now look for free freight, it's difficult for some of these larger online retailers to be profitable with our price points. That's a challenge.
Where do you find most people play with the minis? Is it cars, home, airplanes?
Yeah, everywhere. I mean, this is the kind of thing you open the box and you want to sit right down and try it. Do they play with them 2 or 3 years after they bought them? Maybe if they find them in a drawer. I mean, it's that impulse nature where you got to try it. We do very well with travel centers, so people do buy them for themselves or for their kids when they're on car trips or they're even on plane rides. But they're just great, I don't want to say shut-up toys, but they're great shut-up toys at retail too.
I use that term.
Okay,
that's okay. I like to. It's not.
You don't have to tell your kids to shut up anymore, but
no.
That's essentially it satisfies them instantly.
And for those out there who don't know what a shut-up toy is, you go to a store and the kids are like, you just want to keep them quiet and make them happy, so you buy an inexpensive item and they're thrilled and they're quiet.
That or sitting on the floor having a tantrum and you need something quick.
So let's talk industry. A lot's changed over the last couple of years, and there used to be 1 million shows. And I am now going to put you in charge of the toy industry. From your point of view, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. It's how many shows do we need, and what time of year would make sense? You can now do it any way you want, and I think there needs to be some restructuring, so I'd like to hear your opinion.
Well, it's an excellent question. We started tripping over each other with trade shows. I would love to see one major show and maybe one smaller show a la Astra that appealed specifically to the specialty trade. I think the timing needs to be changed, obviously, with all the controversy that's going on now. October would be a more reasonable time frame.
That is a lot of people talking about doing an October show, for the major retailers.
So we've been having Dallas on October for many years, and we always had successful Dallas shows. As the LA Showrooms event has become more and more popular, it has been splitting the industry, and that's created some difficulties, particularly for retailers who would like to attend both, but just don't have the time and the resources to do so. If that all can be consolidated at that time of year, I think that's a win-win for our industry. I love New York Toy Fair, but February is a tough time to be in New York.
New York in February is not the best time of year.
It's certainly got its challenges, and I've been in my career through the largest snowstorm in the history of New York, right in the middle of Toy Fair, and then 3 years later there was a bigger one.
Yeah,
so
I remember that one. That one I remember because to get down to the building, I had a 4Runner in New York, and I actually drove on the sidewalk because you couldn't drive in the streets.
Right, we were doing the showroom and Javits, and we were trying to staff two locations in a snowstorm. It was tough.
For a show like Astro, which is the specialty toy show, what time of year would work?
I think they're okay where they have it. I mean, it's in the middle of the year. I think the June, July timeframe is fine for that industry because they're not working on the long lead times in most cases than the big box stores are. They can see a product that they're going to want for fall, and in most cases have it on shelves in time.
When looking at the retail landscape, and you mentioned retailers, everybody knows about the big three retailers, in respect to toys. It's Amazon, Walmart, and Target.
Mm-hmm.
But something that you brought up, especially with your product line, it could be sold anywhere. It's like, we see TJ Maxx, Bed Bath & Beyond, and all these stores that do well, that have some sort of toys. How many stores are you in? Forget Amazon, Walmart, and Target, but how many different chains are you in? Are your products in?
I mean, we're in hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of stores. I mean, doors, it's certainly in the 10,000s, if not more.
Which have surprised you? Like you opened up a store and it's like, okay.
We do a great business, and we have since we introduced the world's smallest line with Cracker Barrel. Terrific company, terrific to work for. I mentioned our travel appeal earlier, so they fit right into that mold. They're traditional, but yet they sell a lot of product.
So the supply chain has changed, and it's been tough the last couple of years for not just the toy business, all businesses.
Right.
And everybody was manufacturing everything in China, but we're starting to see people transition a little bit. People going to Vietnam, people are going, even starting in India. Some people will come back to the US, Mexico. Where do you see it heading?
I think a lot of companies have learned the hard lesson over the past few years, and we'll continue to see that trending, that people will be looking for viable alternatives. The supply chain issues came to a head this past year, but it wasn't just based on this year. With political issues and rising costs, there's been a attempted transition from 100% reliance on China over the past couple of years. We've had the tariff threats that went back and forth, so it became a political issue that we all were concerned about. So there's been a search for alternatives. Countries you've mentioned are all viable alternatives. When we started looking at Vietnam a few years ago, it was under-resourced. It just didn't have the infrastructure. That's changed. They've improved drastically, and there are some toy companies that are successfully manufacturing in Vietnam. We've started putting some feelers out, and we're hearing more about trending manufacturing in India, where there's a very large labor force, and they're economically anxious to find new opportunities. And as you mentioned, Mexico has always been an alternative, although we've seen starts and stops in Mexico for 20 years.
Do you see container prices returning, or is everybody going to be paying a little bit more for a while?
That's the worst part about it. Is we went from $5,000 to almost $30,000. Yeah. They're settling back down to $15 and $20, and now people are thinking that's a good deal. It's not a good deal, but it's better than it was.
Do you think it's going to return? Do you think
I don't think it's ever going to go back down. It's like asking if gas will ever be $1 a gallon again. It's just once a floor is set and they know what people are willing to pay or able to pay, hard to go past that.
A lot of people have asked me, how's this going to affect pricing? And it does affect pricing,
absolutely.
But it's, I'm hearing generally around 10%, talking not super impulse, but generally overall, it's like 10%, but I don't think the toy industry has really seen a lot of price increases over the last 25 years.
Look, costs, first costs in China have gone up, cost of labor has gone up, plastics goes up and down. Usually, like containers, oil drops, plastics come down a little bit, but it never goes down as far as you'd expect it could go down. So costs have gone up overall. This year, we're in an inflationary year, and we are going to see price increases on all categories, including toys.
All businesses, all industries are known for knockoffs. And people knock people off. But strangely, your lines have not been knocked off. Now, I know you've had great licenses, great properties, and a lot of brands. Is it because of the brands, or is it because what you do is so complicated it's not an easy thing to do?
Yeah, there is this a high cost of entry to a lot of our products. Not impossible, but brands protected to a high degree. I mean, we have very high-profile brands, and we have strong licensors behind them, so that's enough of a deterrent. But we have been copied, and our concept has been copied for sure. So we're not immune.
What are you most excited about for this upcoming year? Let's look forward ahead. If you can talk about, we're going to talk about Christmas 2022 from Super Impulse point of view.
Well,
is there something that you're doing that's like, whether it be a license, whether it be a product that like, okay, for this year, this is your baby. This is.
Look, we continue to build our functional world smalls. We also started getting into the non-functional collectibles business. So we started with Tops, with Wacky Package Minis, which are miniature three-dimensional interpretations of the trading cards from Tops that have been around for 40 or 50 years. We're currently doing a line called Micro Toy Box, which is miniature toys. I love doing that because now we're taking our own product and making it as small as can be without function, purely as collectible. We're continuing with that. We have a line based on candy brands coming out later this year that's getting a terrific response. Yeah, we like going a little bit off kilter, so we've got a line we call micro figures, which is a combination of action figures or pop culture figures that runs the gamut from Stan Lee and Bob Ross to Transformers and Masters of the Universe and Hello Kitty and Garbage Pail. It's a lot of fun to develop, and it's a lot of potential for growth. And one thing that we're really excited about is Pop Taters. So Hasbro has entrusted us with one of their signature brands, in Potato Head, formerly Mr. Potato, to co-brand. And we're positioned as a collectible, so we'll be working with various trending properties to combine their key characteristics into a Potato Head format with interchangeable parts and mix and match. So that's a lot of fun to work on.
It seems like the toy industry went through age consolidation, got smaller and smaller, and the toy industry used to be 3 to 13, then it became 3 to 10, and then it shrunk down to 3 to 9. However, we're seeing things change. And you brought up some of these properties. The collector business seems to be massive, and it looks like it's now, I use the term kidult, which I am, and I think you're probably a kidult. You know, people of all ages love toys. It feels very different than it was in terms of age and demographics.
Particularly with collectibles. So, you know, it's become respectable. It used to be the kind of thing you didn't talk about too much to your friends. But now it's not only in the open, it's kind of a point of pride. I think people have emotional connections to toys, and they have emotional connections to things that make them feel good, that bring good memories to them, and they can combine pop culture, television, movies, books, things they grew up with, now in collectible format as figures or as other icons of that property. And there is this compulsion to have the whole collection. I had my nephew used to say, as a little boy, he goes, I want the whole collection of every collection. So knock wood, that that attitude is out there, and it's not that uncommon.
Yeah, I think adults want things. It's like I could speak for myself and others in this office. Like, I'm into the Peacemaker, and, you know, the new WB DC show, and it's like I actually contacted them like, when are Peacemaker toys coming out? Who's making Peacemaker toys? Who's making the helmet? But it's cool. It's okay for an adult to like something.
Well, that's a great point, because now that streaming video, and there's so many forms of instant entertainment available, it opens a door for so many series of collectibles, and The Boys and Umbrella Academy and so on. They're so popular. It just opens up the opportunities. The challenge here is working with some of these new platforms and getting them up to speed for licensing.
Alan, I want to close with this. I have in my office at home a lot of collectible toys. I have toys that are 100 years old from my grandfather, 1900s. I have games like basketball game from 1965. I have Bob Kane, who developed Batman drawings. So I have a lot of prized possessions. What are, and I'm sure, I'm just guessing, you probably have a couple special things at home, and I always like to see, what are your special collectibles that are dear to you?
So I have a pretty extensive collection of antique toys, mechanical antique toys. A little bit older than your collection. They'll go back to the mid to late 1800s,
Wow.
the early part of the 1900s. Wind-up tin collectibles, stuff that could never be made today, with beautiful mechanisms and so well designed and
Do you
decorated.
display them, or are they packed
They're
away?
all over the house. Yeah, it got a little bit out of hand. So yeah, we have probably. I mean, I have overflow in a closet. So yeah, it's not so as active, not as active as I was a few years ago. But yeah, it's become. I've had to commit myself to stay within certain rooms because it got so extensive. So antique toys would be my thing.
I talk about the industry a lot, the toy industry, and I'm like, there are a lot of people in the toy industry, but not everybody's a toy person. And when you know a toy person, it's very different, because the conversation is different, because they live and breathe and they love it. It's like in their blood. And the fact that you have those toys from 150 years old tells everybody how much you really love it.
Yeah, we're an odd breed. Let's leave it at that.
We're becoming more normal every day. So, but thanks for coming
Until you put
up.
us all together in the same room, and then all the rules change.
Thanks for coming up to Shop Talk.
Thank you.
And come visit us every month, as we have a new industry leader coming to visit us.